All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
All right. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Board Workshop. Today's subject is sidewalks. We're going to be reviewing the current ordinances of the sidewalks, and I'll let everybody introduce themselves. We go down, starting here at Susan.
Susan Harmon.
Ann Salee.
Mike Welch.
Scott Price.
And I'm the chair, Ferguson Stewart. And so the workshops are informal. There's no voting during a workshop. We have one subject, and that's going to be these sidewalks. So I'll open for open discussion, starting with whoever has the first input they want to do. We have a copy of the current, is this the current ordinance?
No, this is what I put together as a potential proposal based on what we talked about with our last ordinance. I would not say that this is in final shape, so if you have any disagreement, feel free to let me know, cross it out. But this is based off of what Paul had submitted last time about his requirements, and then also some of the things we talked about with if we want to require sidewalks for new construction and subdivisions.
Okay, all right. And I forgot to tell you, we're in the auditorium in the basement, and it is after 6, so we're going to start. Susan, go ahead.
The only thing I still have a question or disagreement on is the strength of the concrete. And if I remember correctly, on, on the second page, you have updated it on public sidewalk concrete standards and strength and mix requirements. It says that the mix type, the strength shall typically be achieved using a 6.6 sac city mix design requiring a minimum of 600 pounds of cementitious material per cubic yard. And my understanding from Paul was that the only way that you get that is if you have a cement truck. I feel that having to call a cement truck in to repair maybe a 10-foot section of sidewalk is going to cause a financial burden to some folks when they have to fix their sidewalks. I know we have the small mixers, and I know those have been used. They've been used in our neighborhood several times. I've seen them used around town. I've seen them used when the areas are not accessible by a concrete truck cement mixer. Other than that, that is the only thing that I have a disagreement on. I feel like if the homeowner is going to have to pay to fix a sidewalk, we're asking them to put in a sidewalk that is of gold standard. Not saying that we don't want it to look nice, but there is an extra cost to this. I've called around to a couple different companies, and there is an extra cost for a cement truck to come to your place as opposed to having it mixed by one of the smaller mixers. So that's my only complaint, and I would like, maybe nobody disagrees with or agrees with me, or maybe somebody, disagrees with me, but that's my only complaint, putting that within the ordinance.
Okay, I'd like to concur with Susan. It probably isn't an extra expense. Right. But if we go in that direction of having a smaller mixer, I would like that Paul come up with some standards for the actual mix that goes into the sidewalk, because there are specific formulas, because otherwise people just get Quikrete, throw it in the mixer and be done with it, or put Quikrete down on the ground, or just get a wheelbarrow. So if Paul could come up with some mixing ratios for the cement itself,
okay,
I think that would be a doable.
So everybody knows we're on section 5. This is about item B, where it defines that.
B2.
Yeah, B2, right. Go ahead.
A couple things. If we move through with this ordinance, I still think it's important that we have signage around town warning people or talking about the sidewalks. It is an historic town, which is a warning to be careful. There is no penalty attached to this ordinance. I'm also concerned because a precedent has been set that people took out their sidewalk, and we have allowed that. So are we going to allow, if I had a sidewalk and it was in bad shape and I had to replace it, I probably would do what somebody else did, not just take out my sidewalk. That's not addressed here. I think that that's very important. I don't know if that is an HDC thing.
It might be a legal question, and so I will ask about that, what we
Okay.
can do there. I agree with you about the penalty thing. That was one thing I had, was part of why I don't feel this is final. I had also felt that we should make a way, if we're going to enforce as a default new construction and subdivisions to put in sidewalks, I thought we should also provide for a way for people to apply in those, for a variance essentially, as we do with other things. And I haven't written that into there yet either. So there are definitely things that I think we need to continue to put in here. As far as your signs on the historic sidewalks, I 100% agree, and I want to keep looking into that. I just didn't know if that needed to be, I don't think that needs to be written in as an ordinance.
Sometimes if you don't write it down and put it in an ordinance, it's not going to get done.
That is true.
Yes, Mark.
Two things to the point of Susan's point a while ago. First off, the only conflict I have with people doing their own is you don't have any receipt or guarantee of the quality of the material they use, the sand to mix ratio. The thing about having a contractor come out, you can get a receipt for the material, what was put in. And I called a couple of concrete companies. They said that they charge a $150 minimum no matter how much they pour. And I just don't think to have, that's a real, I mean, that is a burden, but I just don't think it's that big of a burden to have them come out. If we're going to go this, and if we're doing this by the book for a law, I just think there needs to really be consistency on the material that's being used, and it actually follows in those guidelines. For me to get out there with my old wheelbarrow and mix some sand and concrete together and throw it in a hole, hopefully it stays good for 6 months or a year. I just think there needs to be consistency to make sure we know we're getting the quality of the material to do this job that we're proposing. So that's my only concern.
I'd agree with you on that, but I would like there to be an option of using the small mixers. I'm not saying a wheelbarrow, where you're mixing it by hand. One that actually spins it. You've seen them.
Yeah,
I mean, you know what I'm talking
I
about.
know, but if you're going
You can rent
to,
it.
but if you're going to say you have to put that in the code that you have to use a certain size mixer, if you just say that you're able to do it yourself by hand with a mixer, mechanical, gas run, or a wheelbarrow. I mean, if you're going to say that we can
Well, I
do it-
don't know, and this is the next question I have. So I did email Paul last week, and he gave me a list of those who were licensed for sidewalks within the city. So if someone has to replace a sidewalk, they're going to, from what I understand, in order to get permitted, you would have to use somebody who's approved by the city, correct? Or is that not correct?
If you're hiring someone to do it, you have to hire someone who is licensed with the city.
To do that work?
Yes.
Or that type of work. So with that in mind, then those individuals should be, if you say you can use a small mixer, or you say, hey, all of them have to be done by a cement truck, those guys should know that they're not allowed to just get a bag of Quikrete and mix it up in a wheelbarrow and throw it in, right? So that step should be alleviated by using one of the licensed, approved city sidewalk guys.
Okay.
Yes or no?
Can I follow up? Yes, under those conditions, yes. I was just concerned that we're going to do, no disrespect, me getting out there and trying to patch up a hole in my concrete with just the cheapest material I can find just to give a visual approval from the city. So can we put in there that it must be installed by a licensed contractor?
I agree. I think we should.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
that's how you'd have to do it. Because
I support what you're saying. I don't want to put any more burden on anybody.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that, we're going through this trouble. We want to make sure the materials being put down is within these guidelines.
Right. And I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that that I don't want it to be like this huge burden
Yeah.
for a citizen to go out and say, well, I can't have this guy do it because, I mean, if we can only use, and there were like 4 names, if we can only use these 4 or those that are approved by Paul to get that permit, then they need to know exactly what's required of them.
I agree. Thank you.
So,
Yeah, the only thing I picked up is there are different types of sidewalks in Eureka. Downtown, there's what I'm calling, and I may be wrong, a suspended sidewalk, which is hovering above the ground.
those pedestals?
Right, and so I'm not sure if this covers that. I mean, it would be where you have to literally find a block of concrete or a block of stone and place over it. It's almost an engineering requirement for replacing those sidewalks. So that's one thing I don't see in here is those type of situations where, like in front of the Palace Hotel, like those are stone slabs that are cut precisely to fit in a certain spot because that's what, but if they weren't there, you'd go 20 feet straight down. So those are the kind of things I don't see. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think when Paul was here, he mentioned, because I know with those slabs, they can flip them or they can score them to make them safe again. The question is, if they're moving, how do you fix the movement?
Right. And that's where a lot of them, especially in that one area I was talking about.
So you don't have a section, there isn't a section in here for, I don't know what you would call it.
Commercial?
Historical slab requirements or something?
There is that section in the current code, so I didn't see the need to update or change it.
Okay. So
Does it have any requirements? And I'm sorry, I had that, I think I forgot it at home. Does it have any requirements of how to maintain those sidewalks in that ordinance?
here we go.
I've got the ordinance here, right here, also
Do you?
9.08 sidewalks.
I don't believe so, but maintenance is covered in the design guidelines. The requirements for how those sidewalks should be is in there. I also know for anything that Fergie is talking about where a sidewalk is over an open area due to a creek or a ditch or something, they do, often, I don't want to say require, Paul does require more than just a standard drawing when he's approving those permits because there is that concern of the sidewalk caving in, especially in those areas where, it leads to a driveway or something. Paul looks, and also when they need to be public works, looks at those differently than they do a normal sidewalk that's not bridged over something.
So they have to disclose that in the application?
Well, yes, because when they give the property address, we know the property, we know what sidewalk they're talking about.
Do you think they know all of the sidewalks that have that issue downtown?
Well, I know Paul and I walked every sidewalk downtown.
I know, but okay, if you think he knows what's underneath all of them, then,
I do have one more. Just now that you brought the code up here. Oh, it says here 908020 that it should be the duty of the property owner to obtain a building permit for the installation, replacement, or any work. What is the cost of that permit?
It's supposed to be waived according to that ordinance, correct?
There is no fee for the building permit to reinstall, put concrete in?
That's
I don't know what
read.
the fee for the building permits is because I don't issue them.
But that's included, because it says here, it shall be the duty of the property owner to obtain a building permit. Yeah, okay, so in the building permit, it will include the concrete necessity for the building and the material involved? Okay,
Yes.
that's all I need. Thanks.
Yeah, I thought that it said in that ordinance, though, that was waived if they were replacing sidewalk.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, like I say, if they're just doing just a sidewalk, they have to get a permit for that sidewalk replacement, right? And is that the same cost as the building permit, or is that a fee that's waived? Is there financial
Oh, I'm sorry.
cost?
The fee was waived, but the permit is needed.
Okay, is that correct?
I know the permit is required. I don't know what,
You have to say a
do
permit
with their
specifically to replace the sidewalk, not the entire building permit for the property itself, like a new construction. But if I'm going to have, it says in there that you have to get it says a building permit to install cement for a sidewalk. So I just didn't know if there was a separate fee for just the sidewalk, or is it waived?
My understanding is yes,
Okay.
from the ordinance, that you still have to get a permit from the city in order to replace that sidewalk or
Yeah.
put a new sidewalk in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That's all I got.
Anyone else? Yes.
Yes, I would like to briefly discuss, I ran across an ordinance, 9.08.070, written notice for repair. And I'm not sure if this is still enforced, but it talks about
Right.
when
Got it.
someone refuses to repair the sidewalk, they are penalized. After 180 days, $25 for each day is another charge for each day that they don't comply. And I know that can become very burdensome for some people.
Right.
And I had some ideas that if they do, someone actually goes beyond 180 days and they don't repair their sidewalk,
Right.
and they start accumulating a major debt, penalty.
Right.
If that penalty could be applied to the fine, if they do get around to repairing the sidewalk, that could be applied and deducted from the repair.
Okay.
Just-
I know that they changed some of the rules, or they didn't change, I don't know if they changed them yet, but they discussed 365 days, I think. Isn't that right?
we weren't changing anything. We were just essentially asking to give homeowners more time on this initial go-around, but eventually, this would still get triggered.
Well, yeah, I'm specifically talking about the penalty that's applied if they don't do it.
Right. I got you.
And, maybe easing the burden on the homeowner once they get around to doing it, that could be deducted from the cost of the repair.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to briefly discuss is, let me just bring up my notes here. We actually have to piggyback upon the Arkansas State Code, which is Arkansas Code of 1987, and I guess it was revised in 2024, which gives us broad power to, come up with these things. But I also noticed that when a homeowner does not comply, and the city has to go in and actually do the repair, we could actually charge them 6% penalty of what it costs to do the repair.
Right.
And that could be another incentive to actually get it done.
Right. There are situations, I know I ran into this a long time ago, but where the city repairs it for the homeowner and then charges whatever their expense was back to the homeowner.
Yeah, but we could also charge 6%
Right,
penalty
that's
on
right.
top of that.
That's right, on top of that. So one of the things that's kind of interesting with that, though, is usually, I'm going to make a swag at this, but it's normally almost double the cost if the city does it. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that's normally my experience has been when I was in another city and had to have, and I didn't know I said, well, I don't know how to do that, so you do that for me and let me know what it costs. And that's what somebody said, oh boy, did you get taken? And I said, oh yeah, and that's what it is.
And the third point I'd like to bring up, that maybe we could think about, is enforcement.
Yes.
Because, we have this walking team that goes around and assess that. I know Cassie's on it and probably Paul. And we have a list that Cassie and Paul presented last time we met of items that need to be repaired. I mean, just as I was walking up to come to tonight's meeting, just right here on the street, there's, discrepancy in the sidewalk, of like 1 to 2 inches where you could catch your feet. So Do we have reporting mechanisms so that we know when things have been?
Well, that was yeah, perfect. So I know that currently there is a mechanism to report code violations by the public. That could be anonymous. I guess is that still in there? I know we talked about this a while
Did you go
back.
to esplanning.org? Wasn't there something on there where they could report something?
I would have to check. Often when people want to report code violations, they just directly call or email Paul or I.
Yeah,
And we investigate every violation we're told of.
right.
Well, you see, my main concern is that we have potential violations already,
Right.
but is it being enforced and getting done?
Yeah, well, I think that's what's happened, and I believe you're going back to that. It's been, well, I don't know. I got here in 2012, and there had been no sidewalk enforcement while I was here, and that's what's happened, where the mayor put Cassie and Paul out on the street to get an analysis of where we're at, and that's when they came back with the report. So I think the city has decided, okay, it's bad enough, and we've got to do it now. We got to start.
Well, I would suggest that we prioritize it, if possible, that we concentrate on the tourist area where the tourists are at risk. It's a public risk for them to trip, because I think since I've been here, at least I know of 3 people that have fallen.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Because of the sidewalks.
Yeah.
So we really need to concentrate, because the tourists are our income,
Right.
and we should protect the tourists.
Right. So I
At
know,
all
Cassie,
costs.
you did a rating system by the code by which you found, but I guess at the same time those individual locations are identified. I guess that could probably be not too hard to do, to say, okay, this is in the I don't know what you call it, the lower historic area versus the upper historic area, something like that. It could probably maybe delineate that.
So what sort of brought this all about was, after some discussion at the city council table, the mayor asked Paul and I to do an assessment of the sidewalks in town to see the condition they're in, and if we need to be upping our enforcement levels. And I would, a quick summary of all of that work and what we presented would be that, in general, the sidewalks, I believe, are better than they're perceived. There are some that certainly need repair and replacement, and that's Paul and my next step on the enforcement issue, is working on those that we've identified as the worst. There have been a couple pauses put on that are outside of mine and Paul's control, but that is what we're looking to do next as part of that. And we've also, because the ordinance requires a sidewalk safety team that is comprised of members from the building department and public works, we've also added interim public works director Sean Mellon to be part of our sidewalk team. So he is now also involved with that assessment and enforcement.
Okay. Did that help? Did that help?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Cassie.
Yes, Mike.
So right now, as far as I know, this 30-minute meeting right here, we're just going over this to see if there's any amendments we need to make and conclusions so you can move forward on this to getting it to
Right.
city council.
Yes.
Like I say, if we're going to shut this 30 minutes, we're almost out of time. I'd like to go ahead, and if we have any deviations or changes, go ahead and approve this for Cassie to move forward.
We
with.
can't
Have any
vote.
objection?
We can't
Well-
vote
I
in
know,
a work
so
session.
we're
We have to wait
suggesting.
till the meeting.
Yeah, any more suggestions, and then I can come back next time.
Well,
Yeah,
again, I would like if Paul could actually look at the requirements for a cement mixture that would comply with code, so that we don't have, anybody mixing up the cement to their own specifications. We need to have a standard.
Susan?
Okay, so I know Ann had mentioned signs.
Right.
As far as the penalty goes, the current ordinance does have the monetary fee in place if a homeowner doesn't fix a sidewalk, and will go to the extent of putting a lien on the property. So is that sufficient for you as far as penalty goes, or are you looking for something different?
I think we need a legal opinion on this, because I'm very concerned that people bought their homes when the city owned the sidewalks, and now the city says you're responsible for the sidewalks. It's not on their property, and I'm just wondering, is this going to get us a bunch of lawsuits?
Well, may I interject here? We actually have to go to Arkansas state law because that supersedes us, and city is quite within their rights to dictate that if you have a sidewalk in front of your house, you have to repair it. That's actually Arkansas code, and I'll give you the number.
No, that's okay, Scott, that's fine.
Yeah, okay,
Okay, so we just need a clarification on the penalty.
right.
And then we talked about new sidewalks in subdivisions and, well, PUDs and, what's the other one? Or subdivisions. You looked at the application. It says in there that there's a little checkbox for sidewalks already, right? So we don't have to update the PUD or the subdivision application?
I don't believe so.
Okay, because I thought we had done that already. And then the mix, how an approved contractor, what his specifications for mixing are?
Yeah.
Is that what?
Yes, but to that point, after I read the ordinance, originally we have, since the building inspector has to issue a separate contract inspection for the sidewalk replacement, I'm sure he'll know the guidelines when he issues the permit.
Well, that's what I was thinking, but
Yeah.
that's why I'm wondering, do we still need to put this in this ordinance, or do we just say that
conform
it is
to-
based on the specifications from building department to those contractors that are licensed and permitted to do that work in town?
Well, we could actually, I mean, that wording is we could actually put in there that, the mixing standards must be in compliance with the code officer and the contractor for the
I mean, 'cause
city
they're gonna-
regulation. And we don't have to put the specific formula in there, but we could, because
Yeah.
it's very possible that formula could change depending on.
I mean, because they're going to have to come out and inspect it anyway, right?
That's right, that's right.
Okay,
And that's
that's
what
what I
they do
was
anyway when they're pouring foundations. I know they go into, so yeah, I don't know if we need to put, like I said, that level of detail in here.
Yeah, I think Paul should sign off on it because
Right.
standards change all the time.
Exactly,
Industry standards.
Exactly. right.
We've still got a year from
Yeah.
the first time the person gets the
Oh,
notification.
sure.
Before the enforcement
Yeah.
actually begins.
Yeah.
So they got a year leeway until the 180
That's right.
time limit gets on
Right.
where they're under the
Sure.
restrictions. So we
Absolutely.
can come back on this,
Okay.
do some
And then
changes.
the other thing was the limestone slab.
Right, the limestone.
So,
And that is in the old, I looked at the old code.
It
It's
is.
in there. So, yeah, as long as we're not going to remove that, because that's the only thing I was concerned with, was that, it is different. And it's going to cost more than a standard sidewalk in somebody's residential area in front of their house versus downtown in front of the Palace Hotel, like, for instance, where that's literally have to be an engineered design. Okay? That's it? Okay. Is that
and
it?
then I just have one more question real quick.
It is 4:59.
Oh, okay, real quick. In the ordinance, in the sidewalk ordinance, under section or under 908040, number 3, it says sidewalks located within the historic district on the following streets may also be poured concrete at the owner's expense. Are those up to date? So do we have any other streets that may have been added since, some of the sections of the ordinance were created in 2010. So we're talking 16 years. Is there any street that isn't on here that should be on here regarding that part of the ordinance?
I don't believe so. I know the document that those streets were taken from, and I would say it's rather complete in terms of the historic district. I'm also not positive, but I also know which parts, but I know part of that section of the code was updated in 2019.
Okay, that would be the only thing I would say is just review that and make sure those streets are current.
Okay, do we want to set a follow-up
Yeah,
workshop?
so a follow-up workshop, we also need to.
What about,
do
Cassie, how long do you think it would take you to give us plenty of time for you to work that into it and present it back to us again? Month?
Yes.
Okay. So before the next meeting again, so we'll tentatively 4:30 again, or, well, what do you want to do?
And on the cement, can we also review what Paul's requirements are?
Okay, we'll do that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Even though he's going to convey that to the contractor, can we?
Yeah, see if he has any problems, if we just say
Yeah.
it's his standard and the code officer makes that decision, so, okay.
As long as we don't lose Paul between now and then. We've lost the director of our
Okay,
shelter.
well, I think
We've
we'll,
lost Simon, and now the mayor's in the hospital, so.
yeah. Okay. So if there's no more discussion, we'll go ahead and close this workshop.
Make a motion
And,
to close the meeting.
Second.
Okay, all right, that's it. So we are closed, and we'll reopen for the next workshop in about 5 minutes.